Recently, Ben Shapiro made some comments about retirement that went viral.
No one in the United States should be retiring at 65 years old.
That was a classic. That was a classic fucking free market capitalism advocacy moment from Ben. I love when these guys get honest, dude. I love when these guys get so honest. You are not going to ever retire, and you are going to like it. You're going to eat the bugs.
Frankly, I think retirement itself is a stupid idea unless you have some sort of health problem.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously, it's easy for you to say. You talking to a fucking microphone, dumbass. Yeah, good luck. Good luck with that message. You have to keep working in an Amazon distribution facility for pennies on the dollar until you fucking die. Yeah, how do you make that advocacy for people who are working like normal jobs? It's fucking ridiculous. There's no way he actually believes that. Oh, he unironically does. What do you mean? That's his fucking worldview. Brother, what? Says you? Yeah, exactly. I speak into a micro.
Tucker Carlson responded to that, sounding a lot like someone on the left.
Poorer people, working class people, blue collar people are aching. They have trouble walking. Their backs hurt. So retirement for a man who climbs ladders is a little bit different from a man who hosts a podcast.
Carlson said the exact same shit.
So even brought up the impact of systemic failures.
We are subject to forces that we can't control. It's just a fact. I didn't write the tax code, for example. I don't have any control over the hiring standards at various companies or the admission standards at various schools. Those are systemic problems. It's just a fact.
This is another one of Carlson's well-worn strategies to make a systemic critique, while his solution typically involves demonizing immigrants and other vulnerable groups. It's something he's done time and time again, and honestly, only a sucker would fall for this sort of scam, and he's been pulling it for years. What's even more ridiculous about Tucker Carlson's criticism of Ben Shapiro's rhetoric around retirement is that none of this is new. Shapiro was saying this at least a year and a half ago. It's hard to imagine these guys have only recently noticed these things about one another and were either too cowardly to mention them before or perhaps saw more professional advantage in staying quiet. It really speaks to what opportunists they are. And I want to go back to that video from October where Ben...
This shit's so awesome. Is this how fucking right-wingers feel all the time? Because leftists love fighting amongst themselves. They just kick back and enjoy the show. They enjoy the ride every other fucking week. When some other guy who's like, Hassan is anti-black and transphobic, they're probably sitting around kicking their feet. Ben Shapiro can't reach the floor, obviously, because he's tiny. You know? He just gets up on that booster seat. Feet can't touch the ground. He's kicking his feet, giggling. Yes, this is what apolitical with the boosters. Honestly, an underrated feeling. No, dude, we need more of this. I love it. I personally love watching right-wingers fight one another. It's awesome.
Ben Shapiro was complaining about woke politics infecting the far right.
The Democratic Party has been playing with these forces for so long.
Then you leave a comment like, all of these people are trash. Yeah. Or that meme, 2 R words fighting. You know? It hits like crack cocaine, baby. It's great. That's what the apoliticals love doing. Whenever they base boost random dumb fuck radlibs on the timeline because they're coming after me, they're like, all of these guys suck, but honestly, this is awesome. All of these guys suck. I can't believe I'm agreeing with this person. It's like, bitch, you don't even agree with the supposed angle of attack. You don't agree with being called transphobic. You hate when people call you transphobic.
It's now too late for them to dissociate from those forces.
One of the big complaints he has about figures like Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes is that they push anti-Semitism. But back in 2011, Ben Shapiro tweeted this: "The Jewish people has always been plagued by bad Jews who undermine it from within. In America, those bad Jews largely vote Democrat. In his book, Primetime Propaganda, the true Hollywood story of how the left took over your TV, he described how liberal Jewish people had taken over Hollywood to advance a left-wing agenda. He's also run cover for the Great Replacement theory, trying to detach it from its anti-Semitic origins into a more pliable concern over how...
Yep. You taught the next crop of Nazis the fucking Great Replacement theory. And all it took for them was to read one extra fucking meme about how Jews are responsible for the Great Replacement and how Jews are responsible for wokeness running amok and destabilizing Western civilization. And they all turned.
Shapiro was perfectly happy to point the finger at bad Jews, but somehow thinks it's the left that's convincing parts of the right that there's some kind of Jewish problem. He seemed unaware of the fact that there are actually some pretty powerful anti-Semitic forces on the right that have been there for a very long time. And maybe the reason they liked him is because...
Also, before people say like victim, I know you're joking, you say victim blaming much, but it's like, what can you do at that point? First of all, he's not a victim, okay? The most consequential thing that's happened thus far to him is that he's lost his fucking audience, and I will celebrate that every day of the fucking week. And secondly, he did work really hard to make this happen while attacking people like myself. What can I do at that point? It's the same principle behind the ADL too. It's like, you did it. Good job. Good job. You did it. You attacked some of the only prominent anti-Zionists that were not anti-Semitic, and you created a marketplace for the anti-Zionists that were anti-Semitic. You did it.
They found him kind of useful. It's a bit of a tired point, but it hasn't stopped being true. Ben Shapiro is being devoured by the monsters he helped protect, and I suspect it's happening more aggressively than people might expect. While looking at some of Ben Shapiro's recent videos, I couldn't help notice that the metrics seemed a bit off. For example, his long-form videos do very well, but his clips have dreadful numbers in comparison, something that historically hasn't been true for his channel. If we look on Social Blade, we can see a large drop-off in viewership.
Oh! Ooh! God damn! God damn, son! Oh my God, a fucking historic fall-off. Woo! Sheesh! Smoking on the Ben Shapiro pack. Oh my Lord.
Over the past year. So at first glance, it seems as though his current audience, what remains of it anyway, has a very different viewing habit than his old audience. I wanted to look closer at what might be happening, so I decided to graph out what was publicly available with some comparisons. In this first series of graphs, I'm counting views in 100s to compare them with the total number of comments. The reason I'm counting views like this is because it makes the graph read a little better visually, and since I'm doing it for each graph, the presentation of data is consistent. Looking at Ben Shapiro's long-form videos, there is a big disparity between the number of comments and the number of views, especially when we compare the number of comments to his short-form videos, where they track much more closely. If we compare him to other channels...
Where's the dip coming from? Wait, where's the big dip coming from? Hold on. Oh, this is all 2025 numbers. Never mind. I want to see... Oh, wait, here it is. 2023, October, you can kind of map out this trend here, interestingly enough. Picking up steam here, picking up steam. And then kind of feels like it's all down since then. I wonder what happened. I guess he too had October 7 levers. But he never ended up recovering from the October 7 levers. I guess his October 7 levers were leaving for a different reason. Interesting. I wonder if there's another content creator I can think of that has damn near identical metrics. There's definitely some podcasts out there.
presentation of data is consistent. Looking at Ben Shapiro's long-form videos, there is a big disparity between the number of comments and the number of views, especially when we compare the number of comments to his short-form videos, where they track much more closely. If we compare him to other channels, in this case I chose Candace Owens and Matt Walsh, we can see that Shapiro's long-form videos are getting much less engagement. And if we go back in time to January of 2025, Shapiro's long-form videos are a bit closer. There is still a gap, though not quite as big. If we calculate the odds of whether or not a view will lead to someone leaving a comment, we can see Ben's long-form videos are far less likely to have its viewers leave a comment under them, clocking in at less than 0.3% of viewers leaving comments, slightly more than half of what his videos used to get, and far behind Matt Walsh and Candace Owens, who get 3 and 5 times as many respectively. And keep in mind that of all of these channels, Ben Shapiro is the only one who doesn't do a premiere for his longer videos, where the earliest viewers are sounding off in the chat rather than leaving comments under the video. In fact, Ben Shapiro used to do premieres, which might explain why his older long-form videos had so few comments. We can see this pattern repeat itself when it comes to the number of likes left on videos. With all the other types of videos I looked at, the number of likes were significantly worse. Viewers are 3, 4, and even 5 times less likely to click on that like button for Ben Shapiro's long videos than viewers of his long-form videos back in January or videos from Candace Owens and Matt Walsh. What all of these numbers amount to is, in my mind, 2 likely conclusions. Ben Shapiro's long-form videos are being heavily inflated by people who are only showing up to hit the dislike button or nothing at all. And if they're leaving comments, those comments are being deleted. The alternative is that someone is bodying his long-form videos, giving it inflated view numbers and very anemic engagement. Whichever of those 2 conclusions is more accurate, it doesn't look like a healthy channel at all. I should mention that in my calculations, I did omit one video from Ben Shapiro's channel, the November 3rd one, titled Tucker Carlson Sabotages America. That one actually has metrics that reflect something that has nearly 1 million views, and it's also the one that has the most negative comments towards him. It seems like Ben Shapiro's only means of getting big numbers of engaged viewers these days is by being a lightning rod for hate. While we're talking about data, though, I also wanted to share some info I came across from Open Measures that attempted to gauge Nick Fuentes' growing profile and how it doesn't quite match the narrative around his ascent. Although Fuentes saw a massive spike in social media chatter about him after Charlie Kirk's murder, that growth has largely gone down. The Tucker Carlson interview didn't move the needle in nearly the same way. Most of the time Fuentes gets hyped up, people cite his Rumble stats, but it's something of an open secret at this point that Rumble's numbers are almost certainly bogus. My own investigation a while back found they were inflating their live stream view counts, and I would be shocked if that was the only metric that was being fudged over there. I say all of this to remind everyone that these figures we're talking about today are incredibly niche. For fun, let's go to Ben Shapiro for that.
Every big audience in the media, you're talking about 3, 4 million people. The electorate in the United States is generally about 160 million people. I think one of the mistakes politicians make is they look at X and they say, this is representative of the American body politic. And that is just too online. It's just way too online.
He could be talking about Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson, or even himself. But their importance, specifically...
What are Hassan's thoughts on Nicki Minaj Coke rant? I don't care about this shit. I have no idea what it is. I hope you're doing all right, Casey Tron.
To conservative politics, I think reflects how terminally online politics has become now, further getting detached from real people and instead being obsessed with these internet celebrities as if they've somehow permeated the mainstream when...
Not him reading that. Lamau, thank you, Hassan. I'm not trying to get my ass eat by the Barbs right now, okay? I love the Barbs. Actually, the Barbs are struggling. Nicki Minaj's pivot to pro-Trump politics has been pretty wild. Another one of my ops that went right-wing. Another one of my ops. I need an apology from all the Barbs that said I was aging at the speed of white, that I was being racist towards Nicki Minaj, all this shit. Where are they at now? I need to be able to go to a Sephora without fearing that I will be assassinated now. Okay? They're still with Nikki Chill? Wait, really? They still here, don't worry? Why did Nicki Minaj become an op? because I ratioed her back when she was glazing Tucker Carlson during peak COVID.
Really, they're big names within a small conservative online media space. At some point, Donald Trump is going to retire from public life, likely due to failing health. And right now,
All I'm saying is there is one guarantee, okay? There is one fucking guarantee. If you don't believe in anything else, at least history has shown time and time again that virtually all of the people that put me in the fucking crosshairs end up making an open right-wing pivot. Okay? Many of them sex criminals as well. That's all I'm saying. That's it. All my ops.
his cult of personality is the one thing uniting a lot of disparate parts of the right wing. This is something Ben Shapiro is well aware of.
I think that there are a lot of people who are planning for the post-Trump era, and they're trying to make moves right now in order to sort of consolidate their viewpoints in the post-Trump era.
Ben Shapiro represents the old guard of traditional conservatives, the former far right, before they are outflanked by an even more extreme America First movement, often associated with Shapiro's rivals, including Nick Fuentes and, to an extent, Tucker Carlson. It's not a coincidence that Carlson suggests that Fuentes has already won this fight.
And Ben Shapiro seems irrelevant to me now.
But back then, for the
I
young,
guess that's
was huge.
true.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you won.
Oh, certainly.
The truth is probably more complicated, especially since it's hard to get trustworthy numbers for all of this. But for a political party that seems to be terminally online, it's not surprising that popular sentiment on the internet can be used to fuel a movement. It remains to be seen if it can actually translate to electoral success, though. One of the keys to Ben Shapiro's success online is that he's been able to avoid or build alliances with people who clearly don't like him. Alliances that would never work long term, but I suspect he thought he could get ahead of. As public opinion has shifted rapidly against Israel, it's become increasingly difficult for someone like Shapiro to continue his vocal support for the country. Many on the right have used this opportunity to smuggle their anti-Semitism into the broader criticism against Israel, but Shapiro can't make that move. Back in 2024, Ben Shapiro and his father, a Hollywood composer, produced a musical in Israel that paired the October 7th attack with the Warsaw Uprising. It was called We Will Rise. Speaking to the Jerusalem Post, he said, "The ending is the most powerful part for me. The characters from the Warsaw Ghetto sing 'We Will Rise' as they move through the fog, but now they're joined by the Israeli soldiers who realize that their fight is the same. The fight to protect the Jewish people is timeless." Putting aside the grotesque pairing of the genuinely heroic uprising in the Warsaw Ghetto with the soldiers committing a genocide, what we see is that this is something Ben Shapiro genuinely believes in. He's a man who has a real passion for at least some of what he talks about, and I think that might ultimately be his downfall. While he was willing to make cheesy YouTube videos for clicks or endorse politicians he has serious misgivings about, there are some lines he won't cross when it comes to some of his values. In this case, it means defending a country committing a genocide, which is tragic in its own right. But in the world of conservative media, not being able to sell out your supposed values makes you vulnerable. Going back to the New York Times article, it's hard to imagine Ben Shapiro pivoting to be on the friendly side of the increasingly extreme right-wing base the way he had 8 years ago. Mostly because he didn't really have to give anything up. He just had to pretend he liked Donald Trump. And Ben Shapiro was certainly tolerated and even celebrated because he was useful for attacking the left. But attacking the left while ignoring the far right only works when the far right isn't breathing down your neck in public awareness and pulling ahead in view counts. While I think Ben Shapiro's profile has been dragged down, I doubt he'll be completely finished forever. Careers in media can slump along if someone has a devoted enough base, and Shapiro still has some kind of audience.
This is the ultimate downfall for like anyone that has any principles whatsoever. If they're going to be a right-winger, you have to either be a Christian white guy, okay, with no principles whatsoever and are utterly malleable if you want to stay relevant. You can't just, you can't have any higher priority if you're simply invested in the grift, as he is for every other aspect of his commentary. Of course, this was going to be his inevitable downfall. This is something that he truly believes, right? Asmin ripping you a new one. Oh, shit, dude. What will I do? Oh, my God. That's based. Oh, it's so based, dude. Oh, it's so over for you now, dude. I bet you're getting so fucking upset. I bet you're so mad. Dave Rubin's burner here. What about gay Christian white guys? Dave Rubin is Jewish and also super pro-Israel. And also a gay homophobe. He did that for homosexuality, but he couldn't do that for Israel for some reason. Yeah. If Asmongold wants to rip me a new asshole, he should at least, he should be able to entertain having a conversation with me. But he won't do that.
Keep him afloat. A couple of years from now, it'll be interesting to see if he's found life in a new lane of political relevance, or if the times will pass him by and he'll end up
Clip of the
forgotten,
year, dude.
like pundits of the past, such as Bill O'Reilly.
Do you think you would get along with Black Boy Max if you went on a stream? I have already streamed with Black Boy Max. And yes, of course I would get along with him.
In the meantime, we can enjoy insightful interviews from Tucker Carlson, where he asks tough questions like this.
What is porn exactly? Like, describe how available is porn? What is it?
One of the real challenges in making this video was getting incredibly sick while I was working on it, so I hope my voice didn't sound too froggy during that one. At one point during me being sick, my voice actually sounded incredibly sexy, and I was very tempted to record something, but I thought I should look after my health, and also having a sexy voice while talking about Ben Shapiro seems like some kind of crime against nature, so I wanted to avoid that as well. But there's certain things in life you shouldn't avoid, such as watching my videos, and if you would like to support seeing more of them come in the...
This was incredible. This was an incredible video. Another banger from Jose. I know Black Boy Max wants to collab. I covered it yesterday. Go like and subscribe. Go show Jose some love. Anyway, but the right-wing downfall continues. It doesn't end there. Okay? We have more to cover on this issue because Tucker Carlson himself apparently has purchased a new home in Qatar, and a lot of people are very upset about this. Former Fox News host appeared at the Doha Forum in Qatar on Sunday, where he interviewed Qatar Prime Minister Mohammed bin Abdulrahman bin Jassim Al Thani and made his real estate revelation. I've been criticized as being a tool of Qatar, and I just want to say, which you already know, I've never taken anything from her country, and I don't plan to. Carlson told the Prime Minister. I am, however, tomorrow buying a place in Qatar. He added, I like the city, I think it's beautiful, but also to make a statement that I'm an American and a free man, and I'll be wherever I want to be. Qatar also is the country involved in gifting President Trump a luxury plane that raised a series of ethics questions. The news of Carlson's property purchase sent some key MAGA names into a serious flap. Now, let's be for real. I think this is a little worrisome. The reason why I think this is a little worrisome is because Tucker Carlson, what does he see for the future of America? What does he see for the future of America that he is invested in potentially leaving America? Okay, having an exit ramp. That worries me a little bit. Because I don't think he's like buying a house in Qatar because he's, going to do propaganda for Qatar or whatever. I mean, I'm sure there's some legitimacy to that, right? But I wonder what he is seeing about, the future prospects of Tucker Carlson. Because I always assumed he would run for office. But this worries me a little bit. I mean, I guess it worries me that he would run for office too, but anyway, let's get to Tim Pool. Because the right wing meltdown is continuing. Kremlin-funded streamer Tim Pool says he's in debt and ending his show after Russia cut off his $100,000 a week. Let's take a look.
Leave us. We have 2 weeks left in the year before we go on our Christmas hiatus. You know, I'm not a big fan of any kind of hiatus. I would prefer just to work. But it is taxing. It is grueling, of course. And there's a lot of infrastructure here that requires me to work all day, every day, Monday to Friday, with some extra work on the weekends, usually meetings. And I'm probably going to have a stroke.
Oh, man, it's such a tough job, dude. Remember when all these guys were fucking yelling at me because of a misunderstanding, a clip that was, again, boosted on Reddit and shit, where I talked about how streaming actually fucking is soul sucking in a different way, where it like eradicates your social battery in ways that, in my experience at least, like other social aspects of a regular 9-to-5 never did. Having said that, of course, I obviously understand the privileged position that I'm in. And all of these guys went crazy with that. They love talking about that. All these like anti-union, anti-labor motherfuckers, from Keemstar down to like Tim Pool, Ben Shapiro, everybody was like running victory laps around that. Here's Tim Pool. Here's Timothy Pool talking about how he's just working so hard. Little baby working so hard. First of all, I stream 7 to 9 hours every single day, 7 days a week. Now, maybe we'll say 6 days a week. Tim Pool, on the other hand, goes live for what? 2 hours, 3 hours? However many times a week? The fuck's this guy talking about?
My health's actually pretty good. My blood pressure is great. My resting heart rate is actually around 45. I exercise quite a bit. Haven't been able to skate in the past month or two, the holidays, and But we have to have these conversations, and I have been with the people, our contractors, people we work with, our vendors, partners. And one thing is clear: the violence will get worse. It is going to escalate. We cannot keep going as status quo. Something has to change. It may be that, as we described after the assassination of Charlie Kirk and the threat to come and shoot up our studio and our workplace, we asked, at what point do we say we can't do this anymore? The cost of running.
I just got laid off from my job at Timcast. If anyone has any leads on a podcast producer gigs, let me know. Yeah, this is a strange time to admit this, but yes, we fired March and he started working at Timcast, and I guess he got fired from Timcast as well. What a bad streak of luck for this guy, huh? Now, do I trust Tim Pool is actually going to quit podcasting? No, don't threaten me with a good fucking time. It's not going to happen. He says this every goddamn year. Okay? He says this every goddamn year, dude. I don't think he's quitting. I think he's just trying to farm sympathy points.
Timcast IRL studio and the projects around it exceeds the amount of money it brings in. That's just that breaking point, isn't it, for any business? If you need $100 to, run your restaurant, but you're only bringing 90, you go out of business. The issue? The cost isn't cameras or lights.
What is crazy about this, by the way, is that I believe someone shot at his studio or something. That's what he was saying, right? Isn't that what happened? You're mentioned in this video? Yeah, I know. I was going to retweet this guy. I'm in the new Nexus mod for Elden Zoran, but apparently this guy has blocked me already. So I can't even like it. Water engineer, cyclist, walker, talker. A better world is possible. This man has an Israel flag in his bio, so... The police have 0 reports of a shooting in his town. So wait, did they actually shoot at him or not? He said a threat. All crowdsourced entertainment gets a boost in sales when you claim having to quit. If things are going fine and you fake this, then you make big bucks from a grift. I don't think things are going fine at the Tim Pool compound. I don't think things are going fine at the Tim Pool compound, like whether he got shot at or not. Okay? He says he has footage but won't release it because he doesn't want people to know where the cameras are. Well, clearly, knowing where the cameras are haven't stopped people from shooting at him, so... I think things are not going fine because of the same shit that I was talking about with Ben Shapiro. Things are not going fine because these guys actually do have a lot of employees and stuff. And when they're not actually getting a shit ton of right-wing big ticket donors to prop up their franchise, or getting money, in Tim Pool's case, directly from a foreign adversary, Russia, to the tune of $4 million, they have to downsize, especially if Tim Pool, who literally dropped out of 4th grade, for the record, for those of you who don't know, if you want to understand like what his mentality, what his brain looks like, what his brain capacity looks like. Yeah. A lot of
outside of Germany. He wanted to globalize. He wanted everybody to be German, everybody to be speaking German, everybody to look at different.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no, totally. It was totally fine if Hitler was doing like a more localized version of the Holocaust, then it would have been totally chill. By the way, you know who was sitting next to her when she was making that statement? Charlie fucking Kirk. And for the record, if you were to say, oh, well, how do you expect Ben Shapiro to know everything that she's saying? Okay. This was such an insane statement at the time that it literally made its way to Congress. Like there were congressional representatives grilling Candace Owens on this statement.
Way, that's not, to me, that's not nationalism.
Anyone with a grade school understanding of history should be well aware that Hitler's vision was pretty bad for Germans, too.
Yeah, if he just did Dachau and now Auschwitz, he would have been fine, is a fantastic take.
Particularly if they were Jewish. Owens also defended Kanye.
You see?
Hitler's
There it
vision
is,
was
look.
pretty bad for Germans, too. Particularly if they were Jewish.
Kirky.
Owens also defended Kanye West while he was first melting down. And in this case, Shapiro joined in, defending him, too. And this was well after it had been established that Kanye West had started hanging out with Nick Fuentes. Here's Ben Shapiro on October 7th, 2022.
I care about the fact that there's more black babies being aborted than born in New York City at this point. That 50% of black death in America is abortion. So I really don't care about people's responses. I perform for an audience of one, and that's God.
Wow. I mean, frankly, it sounds fantastic. Frankly, Kanye sounds much more sane than virtually everybody else in public life.
No, Ben, don't do that, Ben. Uh-oh, Ben. Ben, you don't realize this is always so funny because like I'm sorry, but it's insane not to notice that every single prominent figure that openly loses their minds on the timeline in a very public fashion ends up finding themselves in the throes of right-wing sentiment for some reason. Very strange phenomena. It never goes in the opposite direction. It's always, no one goes, oh yeah, I went insane and became a fucking Maoist or a leftist. It's always, I went insane, or, you know, I had an aneurysm and it made me conservative. Interesting stuff.
Shapiro in the October video also made this remark.
The pathologizing of right-wing viewpoints goes back a long way. It goes actually back to a book by Theodore Adorno called The Authoritarian Mind. The suggestion was that there was a pathological drive in capitalist societies that led people to become authoritarian. It was a Marxist view of what America was. And so the idea was that if you were right-wing, you were going to become a fascist.
First, the book is actually called The Authoritarian Personality. I can't say I've read it myself, but it's very funny to me that Ben Shapiro tries to critique its supposed claim of conservatives being more prone to becoming fascists by using the example of Kanye West.
Every human being has something of value that they brought to the table, especially Hitler.
It's very important.
Bro, this is my least favorite. God, I can't fucking stand this shit, dude. I hate the whole like, oh, I love God. Like as though that's the exit ramp. You know, you could just be the most heinous motherfucker of all time. And as long as you just say you love God, it's fine. It's like your big cheat code. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Remember your reaction to the Yay Alex Jones thing, lol? You even tried not to highlight Nick Fuentes even when he sat next to him? Yeah. It's the most annoying fucking cheat code of all time, especially because it low-key works. It low-key works for some Christians. They hear that and they go, hell yeah, this guy does love God, actually. So fucking annoying.
To state how completely wrong Ben Shapiro was in this instance. In the same video, he's also responding to an interview Tucker Carlson did with Kanye West, which was later revealed to have edited out various racist conspiracy theories that West had mentioned, almost as if Carlson does these interviews to help bigots seem less extreme than they
Yeah, he did. He literally, yeah, I called that out at the time too.
Actually are.
I prefer my kids' new Hanukkah than Kwanzaa. At least it will come with some financial engineering.
All of this would, you would think, cause Shapiro to perhaps reflect on the alliances he's made on the right. In the case of Candace Owens, he was willing to look the other way because he was willing to accept a little anti-Semitism if it meant he would have her talents at his disposal at the Daily Wire. In the case of Tucker Carlson, he was a major host on Fox News and a useful ally. So there's a clear advantage to not turning on someone like that, even though he's clearly running cover for someone who holds some very troubling opinions toward Jewish people. This brings us to a major episode in Ben Shapiro's decline, his response to another interview Tucker Carlson had, this time with Nick Fuentes. Tucker Carlson's interview with Nick Fuentes was a gentle one. Fuentes, as usual, went on diatribes about the Jewish community.
They have this international community across borders, extremely organized, that is putting the interests of themselves before the interests of their home country.
Although there was some pushback against Fuentes, Carlson seemed more like he was giving him tips on how to appear more palatable to a wider audience.
But the problem in your response, I get what you're saying, but the problem in your response is it does not apply to every individual.
No, and I would never say that.
Okay. Well, I just think it's important to say that
there's a presumption in everything Carlson says that he and Nick Fuentes generally agree, but Carlson just wishes Fuentes spoke more delicately about the subject. It both ingratiates Carlson to Fuentes' audience while giving Fuentes mainstream credibility. Oddly enough, in his response to this interview, Ben Shapiro had a similar takeaway.
Probably you came away thinking that, for the most part, Fuentes lives on the radical edge of normality. You think that if you watch the interview, because Tucker Carlson decided that it was important not only to host Fuentes, but to smooth over his views, water them.
Wow, woke. Woke. You're being woke. You want to deplatform someone just because you disagree with them, right? That's the take, right? That's what you said all the time, Ben. Woke alert. Wee woo, wee woo. No wonder CNN is fucking platforming this dipshit now to offer a lifeline to his dying career. Where are we at? No, he's not grifting to the left. He is still very firmly committed to trying to message to the right, but he's actively hemorrhaging his fan base because everyone knows he's a fucking phony. Because the market demands now are increasingly more radical. On the Republican side, they want more. There are no sacred cows. There are no groups, no non-white, non-Christian groups that you can't fucking tackle. So Ben is still trying to be like, no, free market economics, that's what matters. That's why we're doing this. And also shitting on migrants. Shitting on migrants and shitting on trans people. Come on, please, remember that. That's what we care about. But also, please, don't direct any of that enmity towards Jews. Please don't do that. And certainly not towards Israel. Hypocrisy farming doesn't work with these assholes, though. They love cancel culture for anyone who doesn't agree with them. Yeah, it doesn't matter, though. In this regard, it's the only type of hypocrisy that does matter. Because the market demands more radical commentary. On the right, they demand more radical commentary, and that more radical commentary is shitting on Jews, pinning the blame on Jews, and shitting on Israel as well. Ben Shapiro will do neither. He will actively defend Israel, and therefore, Ben Shapiro has lost his audience.
Them down and make them far more palatable to a normal audience. As we'll discuss in a bit, this is what Tucker Carlson does for a living.
But Ben Shapiro gets off track a little later when he says this.
Now, since his exit from Fox News in 2023, when, of course, he was a very, very popular host, Tucker Carlson has turned himself into a conspiracist and a crank and a pathological liar.
Shapiro would go on to provide some good example of Carlson's show being a mouthpiece for pro-Russia propaganda and conspiracy theories. But what he gets very wrong is that this didn't start when Tucker Carlson left Fox News. He's been doing this for years. A video I made several years back looked at his programming on the Fox Nation streaming service back when he was still at Fox News, and he frequently had fringe right-wing figures on, like the raw egg nationalist. That was part of a special about how men's health can be improved by drinking raw eggs and shining red light on your balls. This is, of course, just the tip of a very bizarre iceberg. He would talk about everything from alien abductions to the danger of wind turbines. And the white nationalist connection doesn't just come from the occasional guest. His top writer at the time, Blake Neff, was forced to resign after he was exposed posting racist and sexist comments online for years, and he bragged about smuggling some of that into Tucker Carlson's scripts. And it's very well documented that white nationalists often tuned into Tucker Carlson when he was on Fox News.
Bro, this is like a recap and a summarization of my last 10 years of commentary, I swear to God. I covered all of this stuff so much back in the day, from 2016 onward.
Taking notes on how to more effectively phrase their own beliefs because he was so good at streamlining them into mainstream conversations. Tucker Carlson has been swimming in these waters for a long time. Oh, just a side note, if you're wondering what happened to that head writer, Blake Neff, after he was forced to resign from Tucker Carlson's show, he got a job at Turning Points USA. Just thought I should mention that. When Tucker Carlson was fired from Fox News in 2023, Ben Shapiro's pal and former Daily Wire CEO Jeremy Boring made a comment about how they'd love to hire him. Ben Shapiro at the time had expressed disagreements with Carlson over foreign policy, but did describe him like this.
Whatever Tucker is, he is certainly a compelling presence, and he does, when it comes to social issues particularly, have an extraordinary amount of moral clarity.
And he criticized the media's commentary on Carlson.
The Times did an investigation into how Tucker Carlson stoked white fear to conquer cable. This, of course, is their routine, is that anybody they don't like is a white supremacist.
This really captures the bind Shapiro finds himself in. His criticisms of Carlson in the...
Yeah. If you prime your audience into thinking that every racist person is good, and that anytime someone actually calls out their bigoted opinions is actually they're bad, Why the fuck wouldn't they also have anti-Semitic opinions as well? You can't just like snap out of it just for anti-Semitism. Everyone's going to go, what the fuck do you mean?
Present are solid, but he's also pretending that this is somehow new. When the truth is, it's not that Carlson has changed, it's just a lot of this is starting to hit Ben Shapiro more directly. And
you guys want to know why I also think Ben was already on a downtrend before this last this killing blow to his career? Israel being the killing blow. There's two factors here. Jose does a fantastic job of identifying the Israel side. But as someone who is a student of racism, as someone who has a PhD in racism studies, okay, let me put you on some real game. There's two factors at play here. It isn't just Israel. Israel's the final blow. But these guys were already losing their audiences before Israel. And the reason why they were losing their audiences before Israel is because of anti-intellectualism. All the way throughout Gamergate and onward, leading into like the 2020s, Republicans on the internet wanted someone to come across as smart. They wanted to come across as smart. They wanted to still, the political arena wasn't as polarized as it is now. So they actually really cared about appearing as though they were reasonable centrists. The IDW blew up as a consequence of this, right? And they got positive coverage from the New York Times from Barry Weiss, ironically enough. But the reason why the intellectual dark web fell and the Jordan Petersons of the world fell and the Ben Shapiros of the world lost their relevance is because they were presenting a nerdy ass, annoying version of right-wing sentiment. It was actually Andrew Tate that kind of busted this. When Andrew Tate came into the fold and presented an openly anti-intellectual argument that was slammed with machismo and more focused on the aesthetics of being a man and what it looks like to be a man, guys like Ben Shapiro were seen as boring fucking losers. Okay? People wanted more. People wanted someone that was more charismatic. People wanted someone that was more fun to watch, easier to consume. I assume that short form content also played a big role in this as well, as people's attention spans have shortened. They wanted something like high impact and super fast. They wanted a jock. And they didn't even care if this jock was not demonstrating traditional values necessarily. He was a pimp. He was allegedly sex trafficking women, right? None of that mattered for this new crop of young men that only cared about the drama, that were only invested in the drama of it all and the constant antagonism of it all. They found someone who was better at trolling and owning the libs. That's also shifting a little bit. That landscape has shifted a little bit. It delivered that's when Ben Shapiro and all these other people basically came that's when Ben Shapiro and all these other guys looked way more boring in comparison to the Andrew Tates of the world. The Andrew Tates of the world were able to shift the attention to themselves rather than the likes of Ben Shapiro and whatnot. Now that's also shifting, though, because of the overwhelming nuisance of men's right activists on the internet and how fucking annoying and how lame they are and how acquainted we are with the MRA side of the world. People are also looking for an alternative as well. And I think the alternative nowadays is someone who is not an intellectual at all, but someone who demonstrates a common sense position, but someone who is basically focusing on like one form of advocacy in one side of culture that's still heavily invested in pumping right-wing sentiment. And that's why Asmongold is really blowing up, because Asmongold's politics are very, very far right, But Asmongold, to the average person who is right-wing, who shares some of these right-wing sentiments, Asmongold comes across as a guy who only cares about titties in video games and shit like that. Okay? But Asmongold's commentary is not exactly based around an ideologically consistent right-wing movement. Okay? His commentary is even easier to digest than the likes of Ben Shapiro, where he's just like, yeah, I'm just doing common sense. Whatever Trump is doing is based. It is just as anti-intellectual as Andrew Tate, but it also doesn't have the same shortcomings of Andrew Tate because he can't leave his house for long enough to engage in the types of shit that Andrew Tate was engaging in. Because a lot of people, especially a lot of extremely online people, after a long day of fucking work, you know, laying concrete on the ground or whatever, come home and they tune in. They live in rural areas. They're shut-ins themselves. They don't have enough fucking free time to go out and like work on themselves. And they see a guy that kind of resembles their own experiences. And they want to hear from that guy. They want to hear a guy like that who has a position of prominence say that their worldview is actually awesome and great. And it's actually just simply common sense. They don't want to hear the boring debate lord version. They don't want to hear someone explain to them the talking points and why they must have talking points. They don't care about that anymore. That's where we're at in the right-wing audience cycle. Someone who just goes, yeah, based. Common sense. This is common sense. It's there not to radicalize and mobilize because the need for that is already out of date and has been used up to achieve the desired results. It's now merely self-soothing and comfort mode. Yeah. Where do podcasters fit into this? I mean, they serve a similar role of self-soothing commentary that make people feel a little bit better about like the enemies that they're dominating. And it's also there is also no longer a need for like an aspirational figure, because Andrew Tate, whether we agree to it or not, I obviously abhor his worldview. Andrew Tate was an aspirational figure. He has nice cars. He's constantly surrounded by bitches, right? He dresses in the finest wares and the finest garb. These guys don't even want an aspirational figure. They want a figure that resembles them. And yes, you might be thinking to yourself, how the fuck is Asmongold a figure that resembles the average person? But yeah, there are a lot of people who live in like rural areas who do unironically resemble Asmongold. And they look to him and while we look at him and we say he's living in rot and filth, what the fuck? That's insane. How can anybody tune into that? Right? For a lot of people, they see that as a point of sincerity. A lot of people look to that and go, no, it's awesome. Like, he obviously doesn't care about anything. The Diogenes statement comes to mind. The Diogenes comparison comes to mind. It's like, this guy, obviously, he's just like me. He doesn't give a fuck about anything. He doesn't even give a fuck about basic hygiene. So I trust him more. Okay? Someone like myself, on the other hand, they trust less. It's like, Hassan, you care about fashion. You care about the way you look. You care about the way you're perceived. Obviously, this is insincere. You must be saying the things that you're saying because you think this will be popular. You must not be saying those things because you truly believe them. You must be saying those things because you want to be popular. Right? That's what it is. So I think a lot of people who have like completely checked out of the system who have succumbed to deep nihilism look to a figure like Asmongold and think, no, that's a real one. He's a real one. He doesn't even care about showering. That's like what normal people would consider a point of, what normal people would look at and say, well, I can fucking see that this guy is clearly not all there. I mean, he's not even like demonstrating basic hygiene, and I can literally see that through my screen. I don't even need to smell him to be in his physical proximity to know. Right? Normal people that have that attitude, a lot of abnormal people on the internet, on the other hand, look to that and go, well, that's a point in his favor. It's a point of pride.
And it's that interview with Nick Fuentes that really seems to have brought things to a head. For those who don't know, Nick Fuentes has hated Ben Shapiro for many years, in part because of Shapiro being Jewish, but also because he sees Shapiro as someone who undermined his career. In his interview with Tucker Carlson, Fuentes described how Shapiro was initially an inspiration for him.
We do this debate about Trump versus Hillary. And so I'm there and I'm pro-Trump and I say, I think Trump's going to win. And I'm straight up like ripping the Ben Shapiro talking points.
This admiration didn't last as, according to Fuentes, Shapiro publicly called him out over some of his takes regarding Israel. If Nick Fuentes said the sky was blue, I'd stick my head out the window to double check, so it's important not to take it on faith that he's being honest in any of this. But what is easily verifiable is that he has been talking shit about Ben Shapiro for many years now, including one very messed up incident where he confronted Shapiro in public while he was out with his family. Although Fuentes and Shapiro insist none of this is personal, it's hard not to notice that Ben Shapiro had for years avoided calling out Tucker Carlson this aggressively, and now he's saying stuff like this.
Tucker Carlson, for example, would never say out loud what Nick Fuentes does. He wouldn't say the things many of his guests say. And so instead, he acts as an ideological launderer. He takes other people's hideous ideas, he softens them, he treats them with love and care, and then he provides them with a massive signal boost. He isn't merely talking to people in good faith, of course. He's promoting certain people and ideas and attacking others.
And Shapiro goes so far as to point out how even Nick Fuentes can see how Tucker Carlson...
Like, Ben Shapiro, if this wasn't about Israel and anti-Semitism, would be saying the exact opposite. He'd be yelling at the left, saying the things that Ben Shapiro is saying, and go, this is guilt by association. Why can't we have a normal, honest conversation with people that we disagree with? Okay? That's what he'd be saying. So his audience is probably expecting that. Well, the audience that remains.
And is a fraud.
And after years of bragging about being an elite, bragging about being so out of touch and so rich, now he's going to be the spokesperson for all the white people. Now he's going to roll up his sleeves. I just like to hunt and fish in my log cabin. I care about Klarna and credit card debt.
And now Ben Shapiro is very much on board with the idea that Tucker Carlson is spreading the same ideology as Nick Fuentes, which is especially ironic considering just a few years ago, he put out a video titled, Tucker Carlson is not Nick Fuentes, where he defends Carlson when his rhetoric was compared to Fuentes's.
This is a godless country. I hate it.
You're right. They're godless. That is exactly right. I never talk like that. But it's
pause it
true.
right there. Okay, so again, this idea that if you say that God has gone absent from the public square, that you're in league with Nick Fuentes. No, Nick Fuentes literally says that he wants a Catholic dictatorship in the United States. That is not the same thing as what Tucker Carlson is saying. This is the stupidest game.
It's incredible that not even 3 years later, Ben Shapiro is going after Tucker Carlson for being aligned with Nick Fuentes when he was criticizing The Daily Show for noticing patterns in their rhetoric. I want to highlight another part of the Carlson interview of Fuentes that might explain the phenomena going on here.
When you get attacked, when people call you names, like they always called me racist, and I would always think to myself, I'm actually not. Maybe the point is to make me racist. Where you just get to a point where you're like, well, if you're going to slander me, then I'll just become the thing you're calling me. I do think that's a feature of human nature, don't you?
Mm-hmm. This is, of course, a deeply silly thing to say. It's basically recreating that webcomic of someone who said they had no choice to become a Nazi because someone made a comment about Trump supporters being racist. Ben Shapiro said as much when Megyn Kelly asked him about it.
I'm a little tired of the excuse that if you are called something enough, that justifies all of the subsequent activity. I've been called every goddamn name in the book. Every name in the book, and I have not, I have not shifted my positions because people call me names. That is a childish thing to do.
He's absolutely...
I agree. Wow. I think you're a pussy and a coward. If someone calls you a racist, I've been called a racist, I've been called transphobic, I've been called every name under the sun. My positions have not shifted at all through that name calling. If you actually change your entire worldview because someone called you a racist, then maybe you were kind of racist. Maybe the people calling you out were potentially right. It shows me that you're a spineless individual. Okay? Now, this doesn't mean that people should go balls to the wall and consistently fucking take like minor transgressions and turn them into major points of contention, right? They shouldn't do that because it is off-putting, and our job is to bring more people to our side, right? So I'm not saying that we should take this, morally purist standpoint and run along with it, especially because not only is it off-putting to normies, but it also is completely oblivious to the social conditioning that takes place that leads people into the positions that they have. Okay. Wow, my most hated IRL villains are fighting each other. I need some popcorn for this shit. What do you mean? Like Nick Fuentes and Ben Shapiro, or are you talking about me? Anyway, my point is, Nick and Ben, yeah. My point is, there is a tendency on the left to go, we are morally righteous, and therefore you have to abide by my standard. You have to abide by my worldview. And even if you're morally righteous, even if you are morally on the right side, you still can't market like that. Unfortunately, you got to brand build a little bit. You got to market a little bit, okay? And you especially have to do that in America, where there has been so much anti-socialist, anti-left sentiment that has gone unchecked and uncontested, that has basically warped the collective consciousness of Americans. You have to be you have to go extra hard in terms of your advocacy and in terms of branding and in terms of marketing your worldview to others. And that comes, or at least that starts with a place of understanding.
Absolutely right here. And one thing I noticed that every time I agreed with Ben Shapiro on something, it's when he was saying things people on the left have been saying for years, which honestly speaks to how effective we are at criticizing the right, whether they acknowledge it or not. Tucker Carlson plays the same game.
Back to the one narrative that has remained so successful throughout time, whether it be the pogroms, whether it be in Tsarist Russia, whether it be in Western Europe, Eastern Europe, they're going to go back to the Jews. And they snapped back to that so quickly. I said that so much. I urge you to go back and listen to my Oxford Union speech. Okay? If you watch it now with today's perspective, you will see every single thing that I warned against happening in real time. Okay? This was my Oxford Union speech. This is what I covered. This is what I said. I was like, listen, as a Muslim guy living in the United States of America, supporting Israel as a Jewish person comes across like you're supporting ISIS as a Muslim person. It's so wild to me that people think that this is going to be, that this is not going to explode in
I urge you not to
a
succumb.
crazy fucking wave of anti-Semitism. Yeah, look at this one. It got 28,000 views, dude. It's also partially because it took them 6 months to upload. I'm confused. Many other videos, the hall looks packed with people. This one zoomed out throughout the video. Are there not many attendees? Yeah.
These are all very violent endeavors.
Yeah, they took him 6 months. Also, no, it was fucking packed with attendees. What is he talking about? Oh, because they don't do a crowd shot? Is that why? They just assume that it wasn't slammed? Get that hairstyle back, freaky unk. Where's the vlog, unk? It'll come out.
There are masked men in the streets kidnapping people, labeling them criminals without due process, and deporting them, including some being sent to prisons in other countries. He has imposed sweeping tariffs that are wreaking absolute havoc in the economy. He's handed over health and safety to people who are gutting medical research and spreading misinformation and anti-vax nonsense. I could go on for far longer listing all the very non-normal things he's done, even for someone who supports all this stuff. They should at least be able to acknowledge that this is very much not normal. Donald Trump is not a normal president. Part of Shapiro's problem is that he never allows blame to fall on the Republicans for anything, at least not in a way that is damning enough that someone would decide not to vote for them. One great historic example of Ben Shapiro's blind spot, willful or not, is Candace Owens. Although they had a falling out over...
It was not a blind spot at all. Ben Shapiro's former policy that he openly said, by the way, was, as long as you're pro-Israel, I don't give a fuck if you're anti-Semitic. Okay? That was his open policy. He has defended people saying anti-Semitic shit over and over again, including Ann Coulter. Okay? And it was an inevitability that policy was going to explode in his fucking face. Okay? Ben Shapiro hired Candace Owens long after he knew Candace Owens had said a bunch of anti-Semitic shit. He defended Kanye West when Kanye West was saying anti-Semitic shit. Okay? The reason why he did that was because he cared first and foremost about Israel. Here it is. Ann Coulter tweets regarding Jews. Awful, nonsensical. Ann Coulter is also super pro-Israel and has always been so. So I won't lose sleep. This is also the ADL's policy as well. The ADL cares about anti-Semitism as far as they can create legitimacy around the anti-Israel people that they're attacking. They don't actually care about anti-Semitism at all. If they did, they wouldn't be going after Jewish Voice for Peace or numerous other advocacy organizations that are not anti-Semitic, but simply anti-Israel. Okay, they only care about anti-Semitism and even all these other civil rights issues, for example, as far as they can create legitimacy around them. Oh, we're going against all forms of bigotry. We're combating all forms of bigotry. The reason why they do that is so that when they actually say someone is anti-Semitic cynically and smear them as an anti-Semite, there is some level of legitimacy surrounding their call out. At this point, though, they've completely dropped all notion that they care about anti-Semitism altogether. They even fired, at a time when they've raised more money than ever before, they literally fired their entire civil rights research team because they just don't give a fuck about that stuff anymore. They don't even care about presenting themselves as a legitimate advocacy organization that cares about anti-Semitism at all.
Her opposition to Israel, eventually leading her to being fired, it almost certainly had more to do with her anti-Zionism than her well-known anti-Semitism. Owens got her job at the Daily Wire well after she had made her comments about Hitler's problem was trying to extend his vision outside of Germany.
If Hitler just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well, okay, fine. The problem is that he had dreams